last week, YouTuber Emily Hartridge became the first person to die riding one of the new wave electric scooters on the streets of London. They're still against the law in this country, but in cities like Barcelona, Copenhagen, Amsterdam, right across North America, they're being seen as an eco-friendly way to get people out of their cars but keep them moving. Last year, electric scooter companies like Bird and Lime raised over £1 billion to fund their growth. This is big, and the UK is their next target. But do we want them here? And do we need them? Plus, how do we make them safe? Joining me now is technology expert Guy Cocker. Morning, Guy.
Good morning.
This is a really interesting story. These things are the kind of hot new devices when it comes to transportation. Why suddenly now, Guy?
Well, it's a combination of factors, really. One is that they are super cheap. So actually, in my role as a technology journalist, I've been using electric vehicles in the last couple of weeks. So an electric motorbike and an electric scooter, just to see how effective they are in London, in the city I live, but also just what the real world regulations are like, whether the police are going to stop you. So these electric scooters, like the one that Emily Hartridge was sadly using, they cost about £340 online now. So they're very cost effective. I think if you're spending money on public transport every day, you can kind of recoup that cost back quite quickly. They're also, they can fold up quite small and become quite light to take on the train. And the other thing is that they're actually very fun to ride. There's no denying it. So they're very attractive, I think, especially to young people.
And part of the reason that they've spread so quickly, Guy, is the apps that you can use to use ride-sharing sites to just pick one up in the street, go to where you want to go, and then just leave it.
Yeah, that's it. So that's how they're working, like you said, in cities like Barcelona and Copenhagen. You download an app on your phone. You pay a rate. They're actually in Olympic Park. This is where I had my first experience, in Olympic Park in London. You download an app. It's from a service called Bird, who are operating internationally. You scan the barcode on the bike, pick it up, and pay about 40 pence a minute to ride it. And like I said, that was my first encounter with these electric bikes, and like I said, great fun.
So
they're quite. Sorry.
I was going to say, where do we stand, though, in the UK in terms of legislation? I mean, many cities in North America have them, Barcelona, Paris, Amsterdam. I was in London at the last weekend, and saw 3 or 4 people riding them in the street. We had this YouTuber killed riding one last weekend. What's the legal situation with them at the moment in this country?
Well, under the Highway Act, which dates back to 1835, so it could be described as quite an outdated act, electric scooters are banned from being on pavements. And the Department for Transport says it's an offence to use them on roads because technically they would need licence plates and L plates. And, the restrictions around them are that they're not supposed to be used on anything other than private land. So that's what retailers will tell you, hopefully anyway, when you purchase one of these things. If you're using it on private land, you're fine. If you're using it on a road, it's illegal. If you're using it on pavement, it's illegal. But as you said, when you were in London alone, and I imagine other cities around the UK at the moment, the reality of the situation is that people are buying them and using them. And again, as I said this week, I'm testing them out to write about, to do a feature on them. But the reality is I passed 3 or 4 police cars in Waterloo in London, no problem. I passed some on-foot police people around Shoreditch in London, in East London, not a problem. So I think the reality of the situation is that either the police, they don't see it as an issue, or they've got bigger things to worry about, or perhaps both. So I've certainly not come across any problems with the police.
The government say they're kind of grappling with this at the moment, deciding what the way forward is with this technology. There are various videos on social media of how it's working abroad, and there's been a bit of a backlash to them in some places. And in Copenhagen, the police are now out at night, at weekends, breathalyzing people on these scooters, because they can go up to 30 kilometres an hour. I mean, there's quite a speed on there. So what we really need to have, I guess, guys, a conversation about how we can safely introduce them, because they're going to come, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're absolutely right. The reality is they're here already. I think the tipping point has happened where people are buying them and using them, despite the fact that they're not legal. I think obviously there's an onus on cities to look at more effective ways for people to get around, not just cost effective, but for the environment as well, which these electric scooters do fall under. But as you say, the reality of the situation is, sadly, like cyclists and like motorbikes and like people using cars as well, there will be people that are going to use them irresponsibly. And one of the ways, as you just mentioned, is, people will take them to part them up outside a bar, have a few drinks, and then ride them home. And because they're on the road, that makes them a danger. And even if they're on the pavement, they're a danger as well. So there has to be rules around using them. And the quicker the government gets their act together and recognises that people are using these things, the better, I think.
Yeah, and there's an argument in some places. I think in Paris, there's an argument at the moment being put forward that there should be insurance, that you should have some kind of basic insurance in these things, so that if there is an accident, there is some kind of recompense for people moving forward. From your point of view, Guy, are they a good thing?
I think so. I think, having used it for a week city commuting, I think it's great. It's saving me money on the tube. It's obviously emission free, and I feel safe as long as I'm obeying traffic laws. I'm actually a cyclist most of the time, so I understand the sort of fragility of people on bikes and these sorts of modes of transportation when they're surrounded by cars and lorries. So I think the thing I would say is, obey traffic laws, wear a helmet, generally just be sensible. And actually on these scooters, the thing that I noted anecdotally is, if it's a busy junction or I just feel nervous about, potentially being in a dangerous situation, I just pull over, obviously signal and indicate that I'm pulling over, and just walk with it for a bit. But I have to say, they're really, really fun, and obviously they've got benefits for the environment. So I would recommend my experience on it.
How do you think people will use them moving forward, Guy? There's been a lot of chat around this. I think they call it the kind of magic mile, don't they? That final, you might take the bus into town, you might take the tube or a train into town, but you'll have your scooter with you, folded up, because for that last mile or that last bit of your journey, they're a good, fast, eco-friendly way to do it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's how I've been using it, which again sort of saves me the bus fare. So I'll ride it down, get the train into London, and then ride it around London to save money on the underground. I think that if we can get these devices into as companies like Bird are onto private land like Olympic Park and maybe university campuses, that's certainly where they make the most sense to try and make short journeys. But then there's the counter argument that you should really be walking that last mile and getting some exercise and trying to get your steps up. So there are arguments for both ways, but I think if it gets people off the buses and off the roads in general, then that's a good thing.
Interesting. We've got Irene on the Isle of Skye. Morning, Irene, who's spotted them up on the Isle of Skye. They are getting everywhere, these electric scooters. If you've got one, you're not supposed to be using it on public roads, but are you using it on private land? How's it going? 80295. Tell us all about it. Guy, thank you so much for your time this morning and your experience using them. Right now, we're at 10:15. Friday morning, it's BBC Radio Scotland.